This video was made possible by CuriosityStream. When you sign up with the link in the description, you'll also get access to Nebula, the streaming video platform that HAI is a part of. Everybody loves islands. They're like little continents or really big boats. Part of why islands are so great is that they come in so many different flavors. Hot, cold, green, white, love, British, used to be British, Chinese, maybe Chinese, but it depends on who you ask, and even everyone's favorite, isolated. In fact, isolated islands are so great that maybe someone should do a whole podcast about them, and maybe even a documentary too. Actually, maybe somebody did, and maybe the podcast is called Extremities and the documentary is called The World's Most Useful Airport, and maybe it's available on Nebula. I mean, I don't know for sure, I'm just saying maybe. The point is, islands are great, and one other thing that makes them great is that, much like YouTube algorithms, every once in a while we get a new one, and then everyone has to figure out what the heck they're going to do about it. New islands can form in a number of different ways. The most common method is volcanic activity. A volcano that was underwater erupts, spews enough lava to peek out from the water's surface, the lava cools, and presto, you've got a new island. But that's not the only way. New islands can also form because an earthquake pushed land above water, because an ice bridge that once connected land to a continent melted, or because a bunch of misfit toys needed somewhere to sing and dance about their problems. And so, the question is, when new islands form, what happens? After all, every piece of land in the world is pretty much accounted for. It's either owned by someone, owned by multiple people who disagree about who really owns it, or, like Antarctica, intentionally owned by nobody because of a treaty where everyone agreed that nobody would own it. So, when there's suddenly a new piece of land, the world faces a question that, in the modern day, rarely has to be asked. How do we figure out who it belongs to? Is there a bidding war, a fight to the death, a raffle? Well, sometimes, the question of ownership is handled quite easily because of some idiosyncrasy of the island's location or formation. Take, for example, the island of Nishioshima Shinto, which was formed by volcanic activity in 1973. Within a year, erosion caused it to merge with a neighboring island that was owned by the Japanese, which meant that the Japanese now also owned it, as it was no longer its own island, but instead an extension of the Japanese island. There's also the interesting case of Unurtuk Kakertak, an Arctic island created because the glacial ice that had connected it to the main part of Greenland melted. Who knows why it melted? Could have something to do with the greenhouse emissions that the entire scientific community says are overheating the planet and will one day kill us all, but I mean, it could have also been something else, like maybe someone left a space heater on for too long. After all, what have scientists got, other than doctorates and rigorously tested data? Anyways, when that ice bridge melted and separated Unurtuk Kakertak from the mainland, it was pretty widely accepted that Greenland owned the island because they had owned the same land before. And after all, I can't think of any nation that would take land away from people who historically owned it. Well, except for the US, UK, France, Netherlands, Spain, Portugal, Russia, Germany, Italy, Japan, Belgium, and many, many others. But what happens when a new island forms that wasn't already part of a country's mainland and it doesn't do something like merge with an existing island? What about an island that just pops up in the ocean all by itself? The answer is that it's complicated because there isn't really a formal process by which new islands are assigned ownership. There's no UN Committee on New Island Affairs, no International Board of Recent Isle Issues, not even so much as a worldwide club on fresh land concerns. So, absent any laws or international bodies to govern the situation, ownership of new islands is done in a sort of strange, pre-law, Wild West kind of way. When a new island shows up, somebody just claims that they own it, and if they get enough people and countries to believe them, then they become right. An interesting example of this playing out in the real world is the island of Surtsey, first formed in 1963 by volcanic activity about 20 miles or 32 kilometers off the coast of Iceland. Of course, Iceland was the logical nation to claim it, and so when word of Surtsey's formation reached them, they sent a crew to go plant the Icelandic flag, but the problem was, somebody beat them to it. A French journalist named Gerard Gray, who took the liberty of planting his own flag. Not the French flag, mind you, but the flag of his magazine, the Paris Match. It may seem weird that a French magazine would have its own flag in the first place, but then again, this is the place where they eat snails. They've got a lot of weird stuff going on. Anyways, even though Gerard Gray was the first person to claim Surtsey, he was just a man, and Iceland was a country, and as everyone knows, rock beats scissors, scissors beats paper, and country beats man, especially in Hong Kong. So Iceland just kept saying they owned Surtsey, even passing legislation declaring it a wildlife preserve, and after a while the international community just sort of accepted that the island belonged to Iceland, and so it did. At the same time, if Tanzania happened to get to the island first and claim it, hypothetically, it would have become their territory. Iceland and the international community certainly might have something to say about it, but they would have quite the legitimate claim. If you're interested in learning more about islands, who owns them, and what life on them is like, then have I got the perfect thing for you. The World's Most Useful Airport is a documentary that we made about the remote island of St. Helena and the airport they built in a last-ditch effort to save their economy and connect themselves to the outside world. It's a fascinating story, and of course flying myself and a crew out there was not cheap, but it was something we were able to afford to do because of the support of CuriosityStream. They've partnered with Nebula, the streaming platform built by myself and other independent educational YouTubers, to offer an incredible deal. A subscription to CuriosityStream, which only costs $20 for the whole year, now comes with a subscription to Nebula too. If you sign up at curiositystream.com/HAI, you can not only watch my documentary, streaming now on Nebula, but you can also watch any one of the thousands of top quality documentaries on CuriosityStream. Alright, now get out of here and watch my damn documentary.